laid the funk on thick on that one, which was really cool.
Yeah, Mike has great vocals on that. And it's funny, Adam, we were talking once before about certain songs in certain venues when you've heard them or whatever. And I can remember a Gilded at the Beacon. I don't know if it was last year or, I don't know, but one night it just seemed like it had the whole room shaking,
Yeah,
that
for
tribal
sure.
vibe. And it was just, it sounds like maybe that you got one of those, Peter.
It was really funky. It was really good, and just like long sustains on the with the slide, and it was really really cool. It was what was really cool actually is the guy I went with, my fiance's stepdad, future father-in-law. He wasn't as familiar with Tedeschi Truck songs, but obviously knew Walk on Gilded Splinters, and he's big into Jazz Fest and all that. So it was a real treat for him, and he was really pumped, and that was just cool to see.
Awesome. Yeah. Nice.
It looks like a super strong closing to this show, going into I Want More and Soul Sacrifice, and then Show Me. That's a real upbeat, like that, there's no, they're not, they got their Just Won't Burns out of the way in the Emmylines.
They went for it.
And yeah, and got right back into the rollicking, upbeat, funky
they
circus that is Tedeschi Trucks Band, of course, on Show Me, I'm sure with Derek and the horns and who knows what was going on.
Yeah, they went hard on I Want More, Soul Sacrifice, as they always do. But Show Me, like, that is such a cool way to close the show. I mean, just featuring, they kind of threw the spotlight on the different members, the horns and the vocalists and stuff. And I remember Mark got a chance to sing on that one, which was really cool. Which I always love. I love Mark Rivers so much. He's awesome. And yeah, it was a great way to end the show. It was a little, I don't know. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't as good as the Gainesville show, but it was still better than any other show you could possibly, you know what I mean? So their base level is always really high. And so it was great. So.
Yeah, that's what I always have to almost like remember. And is like, we're not comparing to everything else. Tedeschi Trucks Band is 11 out of 10, Absolutely. But to Tedeschi Trucks Band, they could be a 9.1 or a 9.6, like when you're comparing them, or 9.9 when you're comparing them to themselves, kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, it was a good show. I was pumped.
This is Sunday. This is last night.
This last night.
Oh man, we're doing a quick turnaround.
Yes. Well, I do have to say I am jealous though, Peter. My wife and I, we did 4 of the Florida shows, and we did not get an I Want More, and that's my wife's favorite. And I guess I'm kind of glad they didn't play it, because there's no way I could have sat down during that. So
that's right.
Somebody would have been yelling at me for standing up and dancing. But I'm glad you got one of those. But we were in an old theater. The Sanger in Pensacola, very old, had never been in there. It was cool looking. It was old, had a cool vibe. I've been to Pensacola Beach and been around. I'd never really been into downtown Pensacola. Really cool little vibe in the area there. And just to kind of set the scene for you, Adam, it was obviously the NFL playoffs were going on. So there was a lot of bars going with the game on, and the first game was on, and so it was just a kind of a buzz around the little town there. And right across the street was a place called the Old Hickory Whiskey Bar. I don't know, Peter, if you ever seen a little bitty hole in the wall that they say they have like over 650 bourbons and whiskeys. And my wife and I went in there the night before, because we went down the day before. We skipped going to Orlando, even though a friend of mine called me and said, I have 2 tickets for you. They're on the house. And I was like, well, 6.5 hours to Orlando, then 6.5 hours to Pensacola, then 5 back to Atlanta. I said, okay, for probably the first time ever, I'm going to pass on a TTB show. And as it turned out, we had so many friends at the Orlando show they weren't really keen on the venue, but they said the show, the set list, everything was amazing. So, of course, I was kind of kicking myself, Sunday morning that we didn't do the extra drive to Orlando. So we went into the bourbon bar, and I was like, wow, wonder if Derek might come and have a bourbon here before or after the show. I thought, like, this is the perfect spot for Derek to come in and, have a beverage. What a great place to maybe bump into him. And as it turns out, I was looking through their menu, and I ordered a Jefferson's Reserve.
Mm.
And I don't know if you saw the interview with Derek with the bourbon guy.
The bourbon man.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I guess the guy had turned Derek onto. And so I saw that. So I ordered it literally. And I mean, I don't buy the expensive. I'm kind of middle of the road, lower end, but the smoothest bourbon I'd ever had. And I do like the Wellers and the Buffalo Trace, but this Jefferson Reserve I was like, come on, Derek's got to come in here, after the show and have a Jefferson's Reserve together. But lo and behold, it didn't happen. Guess what? It didn't happen.
You got your Jeffersons though.
Yeah, now it sounds smooth. Like I want one myself. Like, just as I get older, I appreciate the smoothness of whiskey that much more with each passing year.
Well, some of them will have that little burn, the first sip. This one was smooth from the first sip. I mean, it just was. I was blown away. Because then I had something else. I had to try something else, right? You're there with 650 different. So I tried something else, and it was such a letdown after that Jefferson's Reserve. So I was a little disappointed in that. But so I did go back before the show, and I had a Jefferson's before I went into the theater. And as I have to kind of brag, my 89th show, Peter.
Wow.
But I haven't been into them as long as you. First time I saw Derek and Susan was at the Wanee Festival in 2013.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was my first time. And I think what blew me away was the first night the Allman Brothers played. They did Blue Sky, and Derek's solo on that. I was like, I like this guitarist. I'm like, I was just blown away. And I was like, I got to hear more of this guy. And then the next day, TTB played, right? So I got to see them for the first time. And as it was, you might not remember, but I'm a set list junkie. They actually opened with Midnight in Harlem. So that was the very first TTB song I had ever heard. That was the first thing they opened with. Crazy that they opened with that, but that's what they did that afternoon at the Wanee Festival. But yeah, here I'll get into the set list. There, I'm wandering here. Adam, pull me.
No, it's good. I'm listening. I like this format.
I'm wandering,
but I like this format. Me listening, you guys entertaining me.
Peter, the Wanee Festival, that was my favorite. We went when I went in 2013. I went every year until they shut it down.
Yep.
It was great.
Yeah, that was a special one. And but remember Butch played on the side stage with North Mississippi. I mean, stuff like that. I feel like it just doesn't. I mean, it happens, I guess, but that was a special.
He had that thing called the Freight Train Band.
Yeah.
They played on what they called the mushroom stage. Adam, a real small little stage amongst the Spanish moss, and I mean, it's just a spectacular. I mean, probably one of the coolest settings ever to see live music. This little bitty stage amongst the trees. You just, they're standing in front. You pull up your chairs. If you want to sit in the back, you can sit in the back, stand in the front. And it's just a hell of a great time. Great time. And I was probably one of the older ones there, at 60 or so. But we loved it. We went every year. So it was a great thing. And the Allman Brothers started it, I guess, in the early 2000s or something, I guess it was.
Yeah.
But so actually before the set list here, Gabe solo opened. So Gabe came out and did 30 minutes by himself on the keys and was
just
really
him?
well.
Just him?
Just him. Just
just
solo.
him.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah, just solo. Told a couple of stories, and he was playing one I think he said was on his last EP, and he was started playing. And he got to like the second verse. He goes, "Damn, I forgot the lyrics. I forgot the words." He goes, "Somebody Google that and tell me the lyrics."
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
so funny. He just humored it up, and then played some piano, and then went back into the chorus or whatever. And he was terrific.